2025 on the following applications at the times listed or as soon thereafter as they may be reached. At such time, all interested parties will be given an opportunity to be heard. And when you hear your name, please come up to the podium and tell us your name and address. Application number 76-25, Roman and Alyssa Del Castillo. Permission to leave driveway and patio on side property lines not having required setback of 4 feet. Residence B District, east side of Brook Place, 300 feet south of Adams Street, East Islip.
Good evening. I'm Roman Del Castillo of 19 Brook Place.
Speak into the microphone, please.
Good evening.
Yep, thank you.
There we go. My name is Roman Del Castillo of 19 Brook Place, East Islip. I'm just looking for permission to leave my driveway as is. Sorry, the patio.
Any questions from the board at this time? No questions. Planning, any comments on this?
No comment.
Is there anyone else who would like to be heard in this matter? Take a motion, please. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion. Second, all in favor? Aye. Application is granted.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Susan Plummer. I live at 35 Birchill Boulevard, Bayshore, New York.
Plummer, you're here for the application as it's read?
Yes.
Questions from the board at this time?
No, I'm just,
No comment.
Is there anyone else who would like to be heard in this matter? Motion, please. All in favor? Aye. Application is granted.
thank you.
Application number 78-25, Joffrey S. and Margaret Moon. Permission to erect two-story addition, 6 by 28.3, leaving side yard, 10.3 feet instead of required 14. Residence B District, north side of Marion Street, 200 feet west of Johnson Avenue, Salem.
Stephen Burton, architect.
Hi, Margaret Hoon, 83 Marion Street, Sayville.
Yeah, just a side, it's a side yard relaxation.
It is an existing side yard, so they're just extending it by about 6 feet.
Yes, exactly.
Any questions from the board? None? Anyone else who would like to be heard in this matter? Motion, please. Close the grant the application. All in favor? Aye. Application is granted.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Application number 79-25, McCoy and Cornelia Wallace. Permission to leave above-ground pool on the side yard 6.4 feet and rear yard of 9.1 feet instead of required 14 feet each, and pool patio having rear yard of 3.1 feet instead of required 6 feet. Residence A District, east side of Lodi Street, 180 north of Rodney Avenue, Essex.
Hi. Camellia Wallace, 15 Lodi Street, Islip Terrace.
You here on the pool area?
Yes, I am.
Any questions from the board at this time? No questions. Planning, any comments?
Planning would only ask that it be granted for the life of the pool in this case.
Anyone else who would like to be heard in this matter? Take a motion to grant the life of the pool. Thank you. Hearing none, any other comments? Grant the application for the life. Second. All in favor? Aye. Application is granted for the life of the pool.
Thank you.
Pool died, you have to move the pool to 5 locations.
Okay, no problem, thanks.
How old is the pool?
I am not sure. We just purchased last June, and we realized there was no permit when we applied for solar.
Does it look like it has a lot of life left in it?
I think so. Thanks.
Application number 80-25, Michelle and Nicholas Margolo III. Permission to erect two-story and second-story additions, leaving side yard of 13.9 feet instead of required 14 feet each, total side yards of 27.9 feet instead of required 28 feet, and floor area ratio of 29.07% instead of permitted 25%. Residence A District, west side of Sequoms Lane, 380 feet north of Sequoms Lane West, through lot to Willoughby Avenue, West Islip.
Thank you. Hello, good evening. I'm Lou Trentadue with the Architects 32 Design Studio, collaborating with the homeowners Nicholas and Michelle Mergolo. We're seeking relief from the board with regard to the matters cited for their property on their home as related to gross floor area and a side yard encroachment. The Mergelos have been working with us for approximately a year and a half. They seek to expand their home. They currently have a Cape-style home. They have 4 children, ages 5 to 11. I'm wrong.
They have
Thank
young
you.
children, we get it.
Oh, okay. So, okay, I'll stop. I'm sorry. We're hoping that the board will grant the conditions that we wish to seek approval for. The 4 kids currently live in 1 bedroom on the 2nd floor of the Cape. The other bedroom is occupied by the parents. So we feel that this home is in character with the neighborhood based on the design. I can open up for any questions if you'd like.
Okay, are there any questions for the board? No questions. Planning, do you have any comments?
No comment.
Is there anyone else who would like to be heard in this matter? No. All right, I'll take a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to grant the application.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Application's granted.
Okay. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening. Get home safe.
We're moving along pretty quick. Application number 81-25, Long Island Church of Christ of New York Incorporated. Permission to install facial sign having area of 48 square feet instead of permitted 12 square feet, height of 15.5 feet instead of permitted 10 feet, and to leave ground sign having area of 32 square feet instead of permitted 12 square feet, and setback of 1 foot instead of required 6.5 feet. Residence AAA District, west side of Blydenburg Road, 1,703.3 feet south of Town Line Road, Hauppauge.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Aponte. I represent the Long Island Church of Christ. I'm a deacon at the church. And as mentioned, we're looking to put up 2 signs, one that's on the actual building itself. And since the building is set back 50 feet, we would like to put another sign on the sidewalk on our property. Not on the sidewalk, but on our property in the grass. Thank you.
Application number 40-25, adjourned from January 21, 2025. Marlon Alvarado and Irma Leticia Santos Martinez. Permission to leave shed having side yard of 2.9 feet and rear yard of 2.8 feet instead of required 4 feet each. Patio having side yard of 0.9 feet and on-side property line not having required setback of 4 feet each. Rear yard landscaping of 31.3% instead of required 40%. Walkway and driveway on-side property line not having required setback of 4 feet each, and front yard occupancy of 73% instead of permitted 40%. Residence B District, south side of Ackerman Street, 150 feet east of Kenmore Street, Central Islip.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting Services with offices at 231 Islip Avenue, Islip, New York. We are here today to maintain the shed. It's about 172 square feet, and it maintains 2.8 in the rear and 2.9 in the side yard. The patio needs a side yard relief. It needs it on 2 locations, one at 0.9 feet and one on the property line. Rear yard landscaping at 31.3 instead of 40. Walkway on the side property and the driveway also. So the walkway in front of the house kind of goes into the driveway, and that also brings us to the front yard occupancy of 73% instead of the permitted 40%. We did speak to the property owner to see if they could reduce a portion of the front yard occupancy. There is a large portion of concrete to the right side of the driveway that they will be removing. And we will work with zoning depending on what does get approved today to bring the rest of it into compliance.
Really, the only issue here is the front yard occupancy.
What would we do in front and rear yard occupancy?
Front, you have been doing 45% as of late.
So our front yard has been doing what?
You have been doing 45%.
We're doing 45 front yard, and what about rear yard?
The board has granted as low as 30 in the past.
It makes sense we follow suit with the come to pass.
Yes.
So that would be a rear yard of 30%.
Well, they're already above that in this particular case.
We're at 31.3 here.
How big is this cement patch? Rear yard.
In specifics, I could not tell you.
Front yard to 45%. Yes.
Is there anyone else who would like to be heard in this matter?
Application number 82-25, 62-64 West Main Street Holdings LLC. Permission to leave primary facial sign having area of 48 square feet instead of permitted 32 square feet, and secondary facial sign having area of 18 square feet instead of permitted 16 square feet. Business District, southeast corner of West Main Street and William Avenue, East Islip.
Good evening again, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting Services with offices at 231 Islip Avenue, Islip, New York. We are here today for a primary sign and a secondary facial sign. The secondary facial sign has an area of 18 square feet instead of the permitted 16, and the primary is 48 square feet instead of the permitted 32 square feet. Both signs have been in place for over 15 years. There are a couple of other signs on the property as well. All were approved. These were the only two that required a zoning variance due to the square footage.
Planning, any comments on this?
It's not much really to add to what she said there.
Any questions from the board? No, is there anyone else who would like to be heard in this matter? Take a motion, please. I'll make a motion to grant the application. Second, all in favor? Aye. Application is granted.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Application number 9-25, Victor Bonilla, Hugo Bonilla, and Anna Bonilla, to renew permit for accessory apartment pursuant to Islip Town Code Section 68-616. Residence B District, south side of St. Andrews Drive, 386.25 feet west of Marshall Avenue, Brentwood.
Good evening, my name is Ana Bonilla. We're applying to renew the permit for the apartment in our home.
Planning, any comments on this? No.
No, he wouldn't. So it was scheduled so this application was scheduled for a public renewal because we received a generalized letter of concern about the apartment.
Can you generalize the generalized letter? That is as general as I can imagine.
A lot of cars. I think it might, who's the primary occupant of the house? Do all three of you live there?
My father, but my father, he's ill. And so now we've been, like my mother, we've been at the house because he needs care now.
Okay.
So it is, we've been there, there's been cars. But
Okay.
he needs 24-hour care.
Okay.
Is there anyone else who would like to be heard in this matter? No. Okay. All right, I'll take a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to grant the application for a period of 3 years.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Application is granted for a period of 3 years.
Thank you.
Application number 799-24, adjourned from December 17, 2024. We have a request to adjourn that application. The representative is ill. Anybody here on that? It's Amanda Barbara and Paul Hessian. If the board's okay with it, we'll adjourn it to March 4th.
Motion to adjourn it? March 4th, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Application's adjourned to March 4th.
Application number 83-25, Michael Ferrari, permission to erect one-story addition, 30 by 32, with cellar entrance, leaving rear yard of 17 feet, and to leave roofed-over patio, 17.2 by 24, having rear yard of 13.7 feet, instead of required 25 feet each, and floor area ratio of 27.4% instead of permitted 25%. To leave shed having rear yard of 1.5 feet instead of required 2 feet, and to use dwelling for two-family, family use only, pursuant to Islip Town Code, Section 68-419.1. Residence B District, north side of Paul Drive, 268.1 feet east of Lincoln Avenue, Holbrook.
Joseph Walker, 270 Ronkonkoma Avenue in Ronkonkoma, for the applicant. Mr. Chairman, after consultation with the planning representative, Nick, we'd like to amend the application to reflect a 20-foot rear yard proposed for the proposed addition for the apartment for the two-family, family use only.
20 instead of 13.7?
No, the 13.7 is for a roofed-over patio. That's existing. That's already there. The 20-foot would be for the proposed addition.
That's the 17.
So instead of the 17?
17, 20?
Well, after consultation with Nick, we wanted to amend that number to 20 feet.
From 17 to...
From 17.
We know you spoke to Nick. We just
Yep.
want to know the number.
20,
Okay, and
17 to 20.
I'd suggest also, Joe, that we remove the dimensions from the call of the meeting, right?
Yes, the dimensions of the proposed addition will change.
We'll just remove
So
that.
just remove it.
Correct.
You spoke to Nick. I was teasing.
Yeah.
Planning, any comments on this?
Yeah, so, I mean, I did speak with Mr. Walker.
We confirmed.
I didn't say 20 feet was what planning would support. It's not supported by planning, if I'm being honest. To me, with
Can I
this,
just stop you right there?
yeah.
Why do you say you spoke to Nick and then you're amending it to 20 feet? And then I'm just trying to find out what transpired. Wait.
He
And
said that-
Wait. And then Nick says, I'm not supporting that. So where did you come up with 20 feet?
The 20-foot figure reflects the layout that would meet the homeowner's needs and also would not increase the cost of the project
Okay.
to
So
the
I understand, but generally when somebody says, I spoke to planning, it's usually say, and we came to a meeting of the mind. It's rare that we says, I didn't support 20 feet, so.
Oh, no, I didn't say we came to the meeting of the
No,
minds.
you didn't. You said I spoke to planning and we came to 20 feet, so why don't we hear from Nick and see what you support?
So I did speak to Mr. Walker and expressed concern. I did, yes, and expressed concerns with the number presented. Reasoning being, in this case, it is planning's opinion that they have a viable alternative here. That viable alternative being they have a very large side yard that they have to work with. The current setback from their side property line to the existing house is 50 feet, where only 14 is required. Now, I'm not a contractor. I can't tell you what the differences in cost might be or the practical difficulty in the construction, but certainly they have a lot of space to work with over there in such a way that I think they could build this addition, maybe in a different configuration while not requesting any setback variances whatsoever.
He's following our general rule of thumb that if you can comply, you shall. Right? If you're not following that good rule of thumb.
The only two reasons for that would be is if it would generate additional cost to bring the hot and cold water lines from the existing house service and the waste line, so there would be additional cost for the homeowner on that. And with respect to the layout, in view of there is a physical disability here, it would also add a bigger area for bathrooms and for bedrooms and a better layout for more enjoyable use. Plus the fact that 20 feet would reflect that 80% level of compliance.
And what sayeth you, Nick? I know you spoke.
To be honest, I feel like I've already spoken my piece about it. To me, it seems like they could make the effort to conform. Again, practical difficulties aside, I can't really speak to it. I'm not a contractor, but in terms of any kind of zoning variance granted, that is one of the tests, whether a feasible alternative exists. And to my mind, it does appear that there is a feasible alternative, especially for something that's new construction.
I'm not quite sure why we shouldn't hold the applicant to what there is a stream in our space, the whole room, to go from the Paul Drive. I don't know, do we have precedent?
No.
And what happens if we go down the road using cost as our guideline, we end up in a place we don't want to be. On every application, oh, it's cheaper to go here, or to go here. And then we don't have zoning code, we have cheaper code.
And just
And that's not one of the 5 elements we have to follow.
one.
I'm more worried about the layout, it's instead of a little more square to make the rooms better, now you're going longer and thinner. It's hard to get those 3 rooms, I'm just concerned with the layout. I'm not worried about the cost, I'm worried about the layout. I'm the homeowner, Michael Ferrari, 103 Paul Drive. My main concern is the layout, to have enough room for me and my wife to have usable living space where it's comfortable. Instead of going longer and more narrow, I'd like to still be able to fit a bedroom, a bathroom, and a kitchen with the right layout. That's what, my concern is the layout.
I mean, one other, there was a variance granted for a house on Lincoln Boulevard that enters this particular development that allowed for an accessory structure in the front yard. So our view of that was, when the board balances the needs of the town and the community and the homeowner, I mean, there was an accessory structure in a front yard with a greater degree of encroachment than what we're proposing. So while we certainly respect the board's and the planning's concern that we could be compliant, we're just trying to balance everyone's needs at the same time.
You know what location that was, what property?
Yes, I do.
You said that was the front yard variance?
Yeah, it was,
The second front yard variance.
it was a
For
second
an
front yard
accessory
variant,
structure.
1867 Lincoln Avenue in Holbrook in 1997. That's correct. That's correct. Signed by Mr. Shire.
Well, the rear yard is being brought up in two particular cases in this instance, although one's for the existing roof over. The only other thing I think was the shed, which, yes, I have no issue with. I think given that it's a roof over patio rather than an addition, and given the context with which that our code exists with roof over patios as opposed to detached patios, and it's something that we are working on, I think it could be acceptable. I don't think it's an invasion of privacy in this case. The neighbor behind them has a very large wooded lot extending very far back there, so I don't think it's an imposition to them. Primary concern from planning's perspective in this case is the addition with regards to setting a precedent for the neighborhood.
We would agree, Mr. Chairman, we would agree not to enclose the roof over patio in the future.
Is there anyone else that'd like to be heard in this matter? Okay, regarding the two-family use, we also have part of the application. for
Yes, sir.
Two-family use, we got Michael.
Yes.
Who else is living in the house? What are the names?
Veronica. In the addition, will be me and my wife, Veronica Ferrari.
And then your daughter?
My daughter is going to purchase my home.
We've got the, yeah, we've got the medical. Okay. So we'll take I guess, yeah, we should put a motion to amend the call of the meeting to 20 feet, rear yard of 20 feet instead of, part of 25. Motion. All in favor? Call has been amended, and then, reserve decision on the application. All in favor? Reserve decision on the application.
Thank you.
It's to 6:30.
By 48.6 irregular, and roofed-over cellar entrance, having side yard of 11 feet instead of required 14 feet, total side yards of 22.3 feet instead of required 28 feet, and driveway on side property line not having required setback of 4 feet. Residence B District, west side of Hazel Street, 304 feet north of St. John Street, Central Islip.
Good evening, Robert McGee. I'm the homeowner for 19 Hazel.
Okay, Mr. McGee, you're here for the application?
Yes.
Any questions from the board on this? No questions. And is there anyone else that would like to be heard in this matter? Okay, I'll take a motion. Oh, planning, I'm sorry, do you have any comments on this?
No, no comment.
Thank you. Take a motion, please. Second. All in favor? Aye. Application is granted. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good evening.
Application number 85-25, James J. Nazaro, trustee of the Victor Nazaro 2011A Trust. Permission to erect one-story addition leaving side yard of 10.6 feet, two-story addition leaving side yard of 12.3 feet instead of required 14 feet each, and one-story addition, all having total side yards of 25 feet instead of required 28 feet, and floor area ratio of 29.44% instead of permitted 25%. To erect second-story deck, leaving side yard of 12.3 feet instead of required 14 feet, and to leave driveway having side yard of 2.6 feet instead of required 4 feet. Residence A District, west side of Maryland Street, 511 feet north of Wyandotte Lane, East Islip.
Good evening. All right, first time I've been up here, so forgive my ignorance.
No problem. Name and address?
Victor Nazaro.
And your address, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry, 44 Maryland Street, East Islip.
Thank you. Planning, any comments on this?
Hang on, it's,
It's not in line with the house, so he probably did precedent.
okay, yeah, in this particular case, I think there is pretty substantial precedent for the side yard request that they are requesting. That's really all there is to say about that from my perspective.
And the balance of the application?
Yeah. So, no issues here for me.
Is there anyone else who would like to be heard in this matter? Yes? Come on up. If you could let her speak.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Mary O'Hara Beener. I'm the homeowner of 46 Maryland Street, immediately to the side of Victor. I would like to bring up some concerns. I'm opposed due to several significant concerns related to this zoning variance application. Primarily, I'm concerned about privacy. The proposed extension will significantly encroach on my privacy. The new structure will overlook my property, allowing direct views into my home and backyard. This invasion of privacy is concerning and will greatly diminish the enjoyment and comfort of my living space. Secondly, the property value impact. The extension is likely to have a detrimental effect on the value of my property. Potential buyers may be deterred by the reduced privacy and other negative impacts caused by the extension, leading to a decrease in my property market value. I'm concerned about a sunlight obstruction. The proposed extension will obstruct natural sunlight that currently reaches my home and side yard. This loss of sunlight will not only affect the aesthetic appeal of my property, but also hinder the growth of plants and reduce the overall livability of my home. The risk of theft. During previous construction activities on my neighbor's property, my trailer's license plate was stolen. This incident required me to file a police report and take a half day off of work, causing significant inconvenience and delaying a planned camping vacation. The presence of additional workers and construction activities increased the risk of theft and other security issues, which is a major concern for me. I'm also concerned about the loss of sight lines to the street. The proposed extension will block my current sight lines to the street, and the loss of visibility will make it more difficult for me to keep an eye on my surroundings when I am completing necessary tasks, such as organizing my recycling and rubbish containers. The loss of visibility could potentially increase the risk of criminal activity. I'm also concerned about the proposal to have a closer driveway. On Sunday, he was using the snow blower and a lot of mud was thrown onto my side of the house. So I think if it was even closer, that could be more damaging to my property. Additionally, I would request that the board survey the immediate neighbors of 35 Maroki, 31, and 40 Maryland Street. Thank you for listening. No. Yeah, I would be comfortable if they stayed within the proper parameters of the zoning. I don't think that we need to make any exceptions. So how would I be able to appeal this particular decision? Because I already feel that he is too close to me on my side of our shared side. Mm-hmm. No, there's a request for 10. That's significant. Correct. Thank you.
I'm sorry, what?
Perhaps we could have a survey of the immediate neighbors. Mm-hmm.
There's been several grants, most of them second stories, an 11.5, a 10.5, 11.3. For a first story, the board has gone as low as 10 feet in the past.
Well, it
which
still
is about
seems
similar
that
to
we
this.
would be on the lowest threshold there.
I'm sorry, what was the question? For a first story, the board's gone as low as 10 before. Now this, it's seeking both. It's seeking a first story at 10 and a second story at 12.3, I think, right? And a second story deck as well. The second story deck, I suppose, not explicitly, no.
And that would be overlooking my backyard. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I think the second story deck is towards the end. It's proposed to match with the second story addition.
I'll look just if you don't mind, again, my perspective. If you want to encroach into the property, you can't encroach and also have deck. So that allows people on the deck to look into your neighbor's yard. Remember something.
Mm-hmm.
All the joint property.
Yes.
So that may be going. Just to let you know, my complaint. And do we have precedent for the first and second floor?
I would say yes. With regards to the additions themselves, yes, especially the second story at 12.3.
Thank you, Nick. So there is a number of precedents that we have granted.
May I request an exception to that rule?
You can,
Okay.
and you just did. Doesn't mean that we have to comply, but that's why whoever we have here.
Mm-hmm. Very good. That's great because I came into this blind because they didn't talk to me about this plan at all. Yes, I understand. So to summarize, there still will be a push into the side yard closer, but the deck, the second floor deck is off the table now? Correct. Thank you. When will the decision be made? Okay. Great. Okay, got it. All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, Mike. Go ahead.
It's on the opposite side. Right, and the deck is going to be on the opposite side of the deck. The deck is not on that side, it's on
We
the
can't
north
be
side.
here. Yes, the driveway that she's, sorry. The driveway has been that way. I'm not moving the driveway at all. I'm not requesting to move the driveway.
she's on the north side, the deck's on the, I'm sorry, she's on the south side, the deck's on the north side. That still is an issue? Yes.
No, you said it wrong.
Victor, Victor,
I don't believe that's true.
am I wrong?
I believe the deck is proposed to be on the south side. Yeah.
Are we talking about the lower level, the upper level? Okay.
Her, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt. Her deck is on the south side of her house. Just to clarify that.
The deck is here, and she's here. This is her side, this is the deck side.
Touching on everything else oh, I'm sorry. What is that now? What is that now?
I don't know.
It's the deck.
The down, it's the second floor or the first floor?
Second floor.
Ask. Okay, you're talking about the second floor or the first floor? Okay. Where, Victor?
This is the second floor deck.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, now I understand. You want to make it smaller, you're saying? Oh,
They want to eliminate the request for the variance, so that it would be at least 14 feet away. Just with regards to the second-story deck.
I'm sorry, my eyes are going. What are we short? I just don't have the overall dimension and I can't focus in. And may I ask if you have the measurement now? I'm sorry, he doesn't have.
Unfortunate that your architect didn't come to the hearing. Do you want an adjournment so you can consult with them?
That's, no, that's fine.
I'll make a motion to deny. Okay, I'm going to make a motion that we deny the application seeking to build the second floor deck and grant the remainder of the application.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application's granted except for the deck. Thank you.
I'm sorry, maybe I misunderstood something. I apologize. So I'm not allowed any deck?
You are at 14 feet.
Okay, I thought.
Yeah, you're allowed to have a
I misunderstood.
conforming deck.
Okay, I apologize. I misunderstood.
It's fine.
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Application number 86-25, James Richmond, permission to install above-ground pool leaving front yard of 29.7 feet instead of required 60 feet, and to reconstruct decking leaving side and rear yard of 10 feet instead of required 15 feet each. Residence AAA-B District, east side of Bayberry Walk, 229 feet south of Central Walk, Fair Harbor.
Good evening, Glenn Graham with Graham Associates, 256 Orinoco Drive, Brightwaters, New York. This application involves direct replacement of an existing CO'd swimming pool and replacement of decking, not the structure, just the top decking to replace the wood with tile. So we're not changing any setbacks. It's strictly a direct replacement of CO'd structures. A copy of the CO was submitted to the board. There is precedent for the variances sought, even though they are CO'd. The pool has a precedent, case number 130-22 at 29.8. We're seeking 29.7 to keep the deck in place. And Fair Harbor has multiple variances for the deck relief. 5 cases were submitted to the board, and would assume Nick would agree with what I'm saying tonight. Yes. I didn't speak to Nick today this time. I'll take any questions if the board has any.
Oh, it's
The precedents are.
only to agree with Mr. Graham. It's a replacement of a existing CO'd structure.
Does anyone else like to hear this matter?
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
He's definitely allowed to fire on him. Anarchy.
I'm totally out.
Anarchy, chaos.
No, I thought it was Nicole the last one. I thought the last one was Nicole.
I'll take Ocean Beach.
You've got that.
I got that.
Application number 738-24, adjourned from November 26, 2024. Charles and Natalie Duplessis. Permission to erect 1.5-story addition, 37 by 28, irregular, leaving side yard of 14 feet instead of required 18 feet. To leave greenhouse having side yard of 1.2 feet instead of required 2 feet, and hot tub having rear yard of 13.73 feet instead of required 18 feet. Residence AA District, west side of Benson Avenue, 632.83 feet south of Jones Drive, Sayville.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. Diana Laspiso with Morano Expediting Services, P.O. Box 39, Bethpage, New York, 11714. Here on behalf of the property owners, Charles and Natalie Duplessis. And we were before the board back on November 26 for this application, at which point the board had expressed concern with granting a variance for a 10-foot minimum side yard setback. I went back to the client and the architect, and we were able to revise the plan to accommodate a 14-foot side yard setback, which by doing so completely eliminated the request for a total side yard setback, which was the initial call of the meeting. So we are now requesting a 14-foot minimum side yard instead of the required 18 for a proposed garage addition. The owners reside in the house with their 4 children, 2 of which are of driving age and have vehicles. Amongst the family, they have 4 vehicles that are used only on a daily basis: 2 large pickup trucks, a car, and an SUV. The existing garage is used for the storage of a vehicle as well as the children's bikes, sporting equipment, and typical household items. In May of 2023, Mr. Duplessis's father passed away. He has since inherited 3 of his father's classic cars that are very sentimental to him. Yes.
There's a single case for a 14 instead of 18 setback for a second story. So not a one-to-one. That would be the only one that I found.
These aren't vehicles that you would typically keep outside, and unfortunately, he has no space in his current garage to house them. The proposed garage will be for the storage of those vehicles. There will be no attic space in the garage and will remain open. The garage will be attached via a breezeway, which has been shrunken down to accommodate the additional setback, which appears to be very common with other residents in the area. It does appear from the aerials and driving through the neighborhood that the setbacks did seem to be consistent with other additions. At 10 foot was definitely cutting it close. 14, they're Okay. Yeah. You know, I didn't, at the last meeting, I was going to foil because I didn't think that they would be willing to, or would be able to accommodate what they wanted to accommodate to get it down, or the setback any further. So I had planned to foil some properties, and I didn't because then they reduced the variance request, which, I mean, if that's what it's going to come down to, I felt because it was a 23% relaxation, it really didn't seem, and the character of the neighborhood visibly, it doesn't seem to appear. Can I just ask a quick question with what Nick said? So the 14-foot setback was for
For a second story deck, actually.
a second story deck.
There's one other that's a 14 for a roof over porch. Again, not very comparable.
Okay. Okay. No, then I definitely do want, I mean, because then their only other option is to put them before the board so I would like to, yes. Is it possible, is it possible to go over the other items so that in the event that the FOIL request does not yield any possible positive outcome and we withdrew the garage part of it, we could avoid having to come back here for the remaining items? If
That seems fair. Yes? I agree. That seems fair.
Okay. I just don't want to have to come back just for a greenhouse and hot tub if, you know. Yeah, no, I don't either.
Glenn, do you have any comments on the balance of the application?
No, I don't have any issue with the rest of it.
And to answer your question about asking the board to address the greenhouse and the hot tub, I don't think the board has concerns with those two parts.
Okay.
Now, we'll reserve it, as Diane is asking, is can you give us an indication about whether they remain?
I'm going to make a motion to preserve the application. Before we do that, does anyone else would like to be heard in this? I'm sorry. Okay. I'm going to make a motion to preserve decision on the application, but we can tell you that the only issue is to withdraw.
I understand. I understand. I'm going to email Mary Thursday the latest, just because tomorrow I have hearings. So Thursday the latest, I would send an email for the FOIL request. I don't know how long exactly that takes. Does that go through the clerk or directly? Okay. All right. So then I don't know so would we be, well, I guess we'll have to wait and see the outcome to know if there's a new date. Okay. Thank you.
He's doing Chris's bidding. Chris is not here.
He didn't
He's gotta
stomp,
get
though.
up.
Oh, he slammed the door. Application number 87, 4175, Vets Partners LLC, Connect One Bank. Permission to install 4 facial signs where 2 are permitted, each having area of 86 square feet instead of permitted 57.2 square feet for the primary and 28.6 square feet for the secondary, and each having height of 48.5 feet instead of permitted 18 feet. And to install 2 ground signs where 1 is permitted, having height of 12.5 feet instead of permitted 8 feet pursuant to ZBA number 230-94. Industrial Corridor District, northwest corner of Veterans Memorial Highway and Johnson Avenue, Ronkonkoma.
Good afternoon, members of the board. John Borkwin of the law firm Egan and Golden, 96 South Ocean Avenue in Patchogue Village. I have Kimberly Sioch of my client Connect One Bank here with me tonight. I'm also handing you up, or having handed up right now, some graphics of comparable projects which Connect One has done in the past to give the board a sense of the aesthetics that Connect One is going after. Correct. Correct, yes. I don't have the exact dimensions of the Fort Lee sign, but I believe it'll be comparable in terms of scale to the building. The building in question is 4 stories. Thank you. So, as mentioned, our proposal tonight is to add 4 facial signs to the top of the existing building at the corner of Vets Highway and Johnson Avenue, Hamlet of Ronkonkoma. This is the building just south of MacArthur Airport. In addition, we are requesting 2 pylon or ground signs, one on the lawn at the southwest corner of the property and another at the northeast corner where the curb cut for the premises is. As the pylon signs, this property has a long history with them. They were first approved for the European American Bank in 1994, and they were then approved in an enlarged state for Citibank in 2001. Those are Exhibits A and B to your packet, respectively. The pylon signs that we're proposing tonight are the same exact height as those that Citibank was approved for. Of note, the turn-down letter in the file does mention non-conforming cabinet signs on the south side of the building facing Vets Highway. Those will be removed. I know they're not conforming. I've discussed that with my client and the owners of the building. The ETA for that removal should be this spring. As for precedent, I know that I've heard precedent discussed a few times tonight. The ICD district in which this building is located is no stranger to multiple facial signs requiring ZBA relief. In 2023, Bala Operating Corp. was allowed 3 facial signs where only 1 was permitted at 3289 Vets Highway. That's Exhibit 3 in your packet. Of note, all of those facial signs required relief for their size, their area. In 2019, EBK Bohemia 2 was allowed 2 facial signs with sign areas 3 times what was permitted, and that was for the Quick Check at 3560 Vets Highway. That's Exhibit D in your packet. The ground sign that was approved in that case also was 11 times the area of the ground signs proposed here. In 2022, M&T Bank was allowed a sign height of 28 feet where 18 feet height was allowed. That was for a facial sign at the top of a 3-story building at 3880 Vets Highway. This is Exhibit E in your packet. This is a very similar concept as to what Connect One is trying to achieve here with a facial sign at the parapet or the top of the building. Connect One is faced with the practical difficulty in that they're just moving into a much taller building. That was submitted to the board. I have an extra copy if the board would so like. This was in January. Correct, to this zoning board. Oh, yes, that's correct. So there should be the green divider pages. Excellent. In 2018, this board allowed 3 facial signs where only 2 were permitted at 3600 Vets Highway. That's Exhibit F, not Tab F, that's Green Sheet F. One of these signs measured a whopping 97.9 square feet, which daunts our request for 86 square feet here, and was far closer to the ground, which would maximize that sign's visual impact on the viewer. And lastly, in 1998, the Applebee's at 3870's Vets Highway was granted permission for 2 large lighted facial signs. Yes, they should all be within 2 miles, and they're all within the ICD zone. I can list off the street addresses again. Oh, I see. Yes, the. Okay. Nope. I mean, I have spoken with Mr. Barbarello and Ms. Light about this application, so yes.
You should.
So I'm glad to hear from everyone here.
I didn't. Okay. Well, to start with, planning is opposed to the application as it's currently presented, which I had discussed with Mr. Barkin in our meeting. The two main issues planning has with it is the amount of facial signs. They want one on every single facing the building where two is allowed. It's kind of unclear to us why they need this many different facial signs. They are also proposing two ground signs, one at which is at the their entrance more towards the airport, the other one at the intersection of Johnson and Vets Highway. In addition to the four facial signs. Those are already grabbing people's attentions along the roadway, so it seems less important to them to have the additional facial signs in light of that, if that was something the board was looking to also give them. Also, one of those facial signs, again, facing towards the airport, there's already a ground sign in that direction. Another one is facing the building behind them in the parking lot. It's kind of unclear what the actual value of that one is comparatively. And then the other main issue planning has is just the overall height here. It's a pretty significant request. It's more significant than most of the things cited here, other areas in this place. This is a ground level tenancy in a multi-tenant building. They're replacing the Citibank there that existed on the ground level in the past, which operated at this place with a conforming, in terms of the height, sign for its tenure at this position. So putting these facial signs at the top corner of the building is of a special concern to planning in these multi-tenant buildings because it's might create an incentive for these multi-tenant story buildings to have other tenants be like, hey, can I get at the top of the building too? And then we might end up with a line of facial signs at the top of the building.
Yeah, what do we do in that regard when there's multi-tenants and everyone says, I want the same size sign?
Usually we don't get to that point, so we try not to. With regards to facial sign, typically you're supposed to have it on what we would define as the storefront, which would be around where your door is, where somebody would enter into the facility. So it's not terribly common for this to be happening in the first place.
Mr. Barbarello, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you know, or maybe so you can comment, what percentage of this building Connect One Bank is going to occupy? Is it going to be 90%, 80%? Just the first floor?
In terms of percentage, I can't quantify, but it will be the majority of the first floor, to my understanding.
Floor building.
Correct, yes.
So it'll be something between 20 and 25%.
I don't want to hazard a guess, but I guess that would be an appropriate. Well, they'd have to apply for sign permits, or they'd have to come before this board. Mhm.
That's something we have to take into consideration.
So. So, I mean, I just go back to, I know I've said it before, but there's a history of 3 facial signs being approved in this ICD district. And the 2 pylon signs are a pre-existing entity. They were approved in 1994 and then again in 2001. So I guess if I could get a temperature check on the board as far as the 4 facial signs.
One member is home with the flu, so.
Okay. So if it would give the board more comfort, I think that my client would be willing to go down to 3 facial signs. Absolutely. Is the next day March 4th, I believe? Excellent. Thank you. I appreciate the consideration. And while I have the board's attention, do we have any questions or reservations about a 3 facial sign and 2 pylon sign plans? Understood. Great. Thank you for your consideration. Thank you.
Application number 88-25, Marvin L. Linder Associates LLC. Permission to install facial and ground signs as follows. Building 1, 1 facial sign having height of 19 feet instead of permitted 18 feet, and 1 facial sign not facing main thoroughfare. Building 2, 4 facial signs having height of 21.6 feet instead of permitted 18 feet, with 1 not facing main thoroughfare. Building 3, 1 additional facial sign having area of 178.8 square feet and height of 31.9 feet instead of permitted 18 feet, and 11 facial signs having height of 25 feet instead of permitted 18 feet. Building 4, 1 public interest sign having area of 12 square feet instead of permitted 3 square feet. Building 6, 2 office facial signs having area of 47.4 square feet instead of permitted 32 square feet for the primary and 16 square feet for the secondary. Building 8, 4 facial signs having height of 30.2 feet and 26.3 feet instead of permitted 18 feet. 2 office facial signs having area of 139.7 square feet and 69.8 square feet instead of permitted 32 square feet for the primary and 16 square feet for the secondary. 3 additional facial signs having area of 88 square feet and 105 square feet, and 1 facial sign not facing the main thoroughfare, and 4 ground signs. Sign 1 on Veterans Memorial Highway having area of 118.4 square feet with setback of 10.5 feet instead of required 18 feet. Sign 2, Sunrise Highway, 118.4 square feet. Sign 3, Broadway Avenue, 130.4 square feet. And sign 4 on Church Avenue, 30.9 square feet instead of permitted 1 ground sign having area of 86.2 square feet. Business 3 District, northeast corner of Sunrise Highway and Broadway Avenue, through lot to Church Street, Holbrook. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. For the applicant, Brian Kennedy, partner with Forcelli Deegan Tirana. How are you? Good. So the applicant is before you seeking some signage relief in part of the redevelopment of the Sunvet Mall, former Sunvet Mall, now known as the Shops at Sunvet. Applicant has spent the better part of the last 2 years navigating the town and county approvals required for the complete renovation of this site. That process included several appearances before both the town board and the planning board. During each of those hearings, the applicant presented renderings which depicted almost all of the signage that is before you this evening. Neither the town board nor the planning board raised any issue with what was proposed. Now that the applicant has secured many tenants, we're here asking for relief related to this proposed signage. The current tenant list for what is now known as the Shops at Sunvet includes Whole Foods Market, Nordstrom Rack, Sephora, J. Crew Factory, Crumble, Citibank, Aspen Dental, Wells Fargo, Starbucks, Shake Shack, and Tony's Tacos. These high-end clients need visibility to the public, and they've demanded it in their leases. Now, I understand that the call of the meeting may seem like the applicant is seeking significant relief. Chris Robinson of R&M Engineering has had several meetings with the town. He will take you through each of the buildings and the proposed signage, as well as the proposed pylon signage as well. But before I get to that, I'd like to remind the board that this site is abutting 3 major thoroughfares and has nearly 1,400 square feet of road frontage throughout the site. The site does not abut residential developments like the nearby Sun Lake Mall and Target shopping centers. Additionally, the shops at SunVet will have significantly more tenants located within their site than what is located in either of those nearby malls. Now, while I understand that planning may have concerns with the applicant's request for additional directory signs, permitting a directory sign at the 3 proposed locations will ensure that the public can properly access the site and easily navigate their way through the large shopping center. Now, I'm going to ask Chris to come up and take you guys through each of the buildings and he'll describe the need for each of those signs.
Good evening, members of the board. Chris Robinson, president of R&M Engineering at 50 Elm Street, Huntington, New York. I do want to correct one thing that Brian said. He mentioned 1,400 feet of frontage. The site has over 3,600 feet of road frontage. It's surrounded on 4 sides: Sunrise Highway, Broadway, Church Street, and Veterans Memorial Highway. I'll start with the ground signs. It's 4 simple signs. The public hearings that we did in front of the planning board and town board, at that point in time, we actually presented 6 ground signs, all significantly tall pylon signs that were done. They were keeping the existing sign on Broadway. They were adding one at the driveway on Broadway. We were adding one at the corner of Church and Broadway. We were adding one at Vets Highway, Sunrise Highway, and one at the driveway on Church Street. These were presented at public hearings. I discussed it with the planning board. The need for the additional signs to provide direct, to aim people to utilize the curb cuts and access off of Church Street and the surrounding roads. We've cut that back during the process to the 4 that you see today. 3 are primary ground signs, large freestanding signs. 1 is really just a short ground sign that says "Enter here," which will go on the Church Street driveway. The purpose of the large signs, the 3 primary ones, one is at the corner of Vets Highway. If you're looking at the picture with the blue property line on it, the upper right-hand corner where it's closest to Veterans Highway is where the sign is proposed. People traveling down Veterans Highway, traveling at some significant speed, need some advance warning as to where to turn in. Most likely they will miss the Church Street entrance, see the sign, and make the right turn in at the Veterans Highway, the right-in, right-out driveway. I'd offer that if they miss that driveway, they have about a 2.5-mile round trip they need to make, because Vets Highway is one-directional. You'd have to take it all the way to Nichols Road, do the double cloverleaf, then come back another 1.5 miles before you hit the shopping center. It's very important for our major tenants, and this is, I have to say, probably one of the largest economic development jobs in the town of Islip of recent time. We have over close to a 300,000 square foot shopping center that was very much defunct. We've cut it down by over 100,000 square feet and are bringing in some of the most popular national tenants that are really around this day. In a time of retail, diminishing retail, our client has invested close to $100 million in developing this piece of property to attract these tenants to the town of Islip. These large-scale tenants need presence on the signage. It's a requirement in a lease. They're not signing the lease without it. The existing pylon sign that's at the corner of Broadway and Sunrise Highway is approximately 16 feet wide by 30 feet tall, over 480 square feet on the one sign alone. The combination of all 4 that we're asking for is 396 square feet. So we're taking essentially the square footage of the existing sign that served the SunVet Mall, chopping it up into 4 pieces and placing it at better positions around the property. So it's not an increase in signage, it's actually a decrease in the square footage amount of signage. As far as the wall signs, I'd be happy to walk through the project with you. I'll see if I can bring up I don't know if you can hear me over here. Can you hear me fine over here? Or should I bring the microphone? Okay. Building 1 is at the corner of Broadway and Sunrise. We're only asking for relief for 19 feet to really, it centers the sign above the canopy that's located above the doorways and creates a centerpiece between the top of the canopy and the roof, so it's slightly higher than the normal required 18 feet. Building 2 is the building immediately north of it, whose back is against Broadway. That's going to have 2 tenants in it, the Shake Shack and Tony's Tacos. Again, the building, the signage, to put it above the glass to the top of the parapet, centering it, making it architecturally appeasing, puts the signs at around 21 feet. The largest sign is on the south, which is called not facing a public thoroughfare, but it is facing the main thoroughfare that runs through the shopping center. It's on the south side, facing Sunrise Highway and that side there. That sign itself is at 21 foot 7 inches high. Building 3 is a little bit of a different case. Building 3 is a leftover piece of the building that used to be the Rickles. It was a 2-story high building. We left the second floor structure in place and decommissioned the second floor, so the building has the volume of a 2-story building. Part of the second floor sticks out over the front sidewalk, so from the approach front of it, you have a nice covered canopy the whole way with empty second space above it. So in order to put those signs in that band that would be across there, architecturally pleasing, they're a little higher than normal. They're 25 feet to the top of the sign versus the 18. Part of this building is a directory sign that's going to be located at the west end of the building facing Broadway. Each one of these shops that are in building number 3 are allowed 2 signs, their primary sign above their front door and a secondary sign of half the size facing Church Street, since it's a public thoroughfare. What our clients elected to do is take those 16 square foot signs that could go along the back of the building and put them all together in a single directory facing Broadway where they can be seen by the traveling public. This is a scheme that's been done recently on some of the major retail developments. I just did the Huntington Shopping Center just south of Walt Whitman Mall, and we successfully put directional signs like that facing the signalized driveways or the driveways around the perimeter to help people direct into knowing where these new tenants are in the building. So we're not asking for square footage, we're asking really to put them together instead of having one single sign for each tenant facing Church Street. That would be permitted under the code. Building 3 is the Starbucks. I'm sure everybody knew that just opened this past weekend. Starbucks is a very unique Starbucks. It's actually the first one in the country that's being done. Building 4, excuse me. It's the first one in the country that's been designed this way. It's a double drive-through. For those that like Starbucks, you can use the app on your phone and order your coffee. The coffee will be ready. One drive-through on one side of the building will be for those that receive their notification on the app that their coffee's ready. They can pull right up to the window. There's no monetary transaction. They just collect their coffee and continue on. The other drive-through is a traditional drive-through with a menu board, and they come pick up the coffee on the north side of the building. The Starbucks required. Yeah. That picture, yeah, Starbucks exists there today. They opened up this week, and it looks exactly like that. Yeah. Yes, they do. Yes. The Starbucks, the one sign that they're asking for is a small blade sign that's about 6 feet tall and 3 feet wide. It has the Starbucks logo, and it says the words "welcome" on it. That's going to be right at the driveway, at the main east-west drive on the center, where the curb cut is into the Starbucks area. That's the sign that they're asking for. Again, it's only 3 feet wide by 6 feet tall, and it has their logo in the middle. That logo is basically 3 foot by 4 foot when you include the panel around it. That's why it's 12 square feet. The next building would be Building 6, Aspen Dental. They put 2 smaller signs on temporarily to open the store, since they are already open. They technically need variances to count for the peak of the A that sticks up above the word Aspen and the bottom of the P that sticks below the word Aspen. Together, that sign area did require relief. And again, since they're an office use in a retail center, they don't get as much signage as the regular retail tenants are. It would have complied if it was considered a retail store. Building 7, Citibank, is asking for 2 additional signs. They're the logo signs. They have a bit of a tower that sticks up in the corner of the building. Citibank is Building 7, which is towards the Vets Highway.
Sorry to interrupt. Citibank filed their application last week. They're
Yeah.
going to proceed outside of this, as far as I understand.
They filed for their application, but not for the one facing the driveway inside, since it doesn't face a public thoroughfare. And I understand they got a letter from the planning board, the director of planning, that allowed them to put that sign up, even though they have to come here for the area of that sign, for the height of that sign. It's 21 feet up. It's higher than the 18. I think they went up at risk with the one sign that faces west, and they're asking for the second sign that does face north.
Okay. Unfortunately, it's not reflected in the public notice because they filed.
Says Citibank, 2 facial signs, overall heights of 21 feet instead of the permitted 18 feet in the denial.
Right, but not the public notice, because they came to our office and they filed.
Okay, I guess they're gonna have to come back.
So they have, yeah,
They'll be coming back then.
I think they are. We'll make sure we get it right, but I think they're going to be on that March 4th that we're concerned about getting overloaded.
So Building 7 is not on.
Building 7 did not go into public notice. I'm sorry. They came to the office and filed.
Okay. And then they'll have to come back to get their
But
sign.
we've listened to what you said, and hopefully they'll do just as good a job.
The final signs are building number 8. Building number 8 is the primary building on the center, which comprises about 2/3 or so of what the old Sunset Mall was. The primary tenant in the middle is Whole Foods. Whole Foods is a large supermarket. Above their front door, they need a little extra height to get that sign up above the front door because of the height of the building. We also have Nordstrom Rack, which is immediately adjacent to them, which has a little bit of additional height on those wall signs there as well. So I believe we're asking for 3 facial signs. One that faces Vets Highway. We have one that faces on the end of the building towards Broadway. And those heights require, a few of those require a little bit of additional height. Just looking for my diagram. I'm happy to go through any questions the board has on any of these individual buildings or any of the individual signs, and hopefully answer any questions.
Any questions from the board at this time?
Yeah, I have one question. Building 3, that's where you
Yeah.
have the directory sign, correct?
Building 3, yeah, they're proposing to take the secondary signs that would go
Right.
in each of the tenants, put it together on the end cap of the building as a small directory that lists out those tenants.
Okay, How
'Cause
many
you can't see
tenants,
them from
how many
Broadway.
tenants will be in Building 3? That's,
In the overall center?
yeah.
No, in Building 3.
Building 3.
Oh, Building 3? About 10,
Okay, and the directories for those 10 or for the overall?
just those 10.
Those 10.
Any other questions from the board at this time? Planning, any comments? Mr.
Several,
Barbello?
yes. I'll do us all the courtesy of narrowing the focus of our discussion down to what planning is concerned about. The first one is actually a rather straightforward one. We were just on the topic of that west side directory facial sign. In discussing with other members of the department, we found that that kind of directory sign as a facial sign is just not permitted by code. It's not permitted whatsoever, so we are just opposed to it based on that criteria. It's never been done before in the town as far as we're aware, and I don't see why we should make an exception in this case to allow what is not a permitted sign. The secondary issue is actually just the ground signs, which is a big part of this, of course. They're right to point out a few things here. It is a large site. They have multiple entrances here. Planning's concern is twofold here. The first just being, as always with the zoning board, precedent. The Sunrise Corridor has a long history of, to my surprise actually, having conforming ground signs in terms of sticking to the one, including the Sunvet Mall in the past, who came and requested at one point 2 ground signs and was denied by the Board of Appeals. Since then, the Board of Appeals has been very consistent, actually, with regards to this. Sun Lakes Plaza has 1 ground sign. They didn't request it, but they have 1 ground sign. They're on the other side of Broadway here. About 10, 12 years ago, Target on the other side of Sunrise Highway requested 2 ground signs. That was in 2012. I believe some of the people here were present at that meeting. Mr. Wexler, you were the chairman at the time. I believe, Robinson, you were the engineer on that project as well. And the board did not give them those 2 ground signs. In the end, there was a compromise where they would have their 1 ground sign on Sunrise, and they would have what we'd call a public interest sign along Broadway, effectively an enter here, similar to what they have situated here on Church Street. That was agreed to by the department, and that was ended up getting granted. That's important to note here because as far as the code goes, you are allowed 1 ground sign. However, you are allowed additional public interest signs beyond the 1 ground sign allowable by code, so long as they're just conveying that information, such as an enter here, parking. And that's really the crux of the issue here from planning's perspective, is that we can understand they want to be able to convey that people are supposed to be entering into the parcel from the several different entrances. We believe it can be done in such a way, as opposed to 3 large directory signs and asking for more than the 1 permitted ground sign, it could be done in such a way where it will almost certainly require an area variance for the public interest signs. They are small by default, but it's something the board has done in the past in this area. And planning believes it's a much less problematic grant for the board to consider. So it's planning's position they should have 1 large directory sign, presumably on Broadway, maybe on Sunrise. That would be up to the applicant. And the other entrances would have a public interest sign that they could have at their other entrances to direct the traffic into the center.
Can I make a suggestion, gentlemen? Would you like to adjourn this and maybe you can speak to Mr. Nick?
I spoke with Nick several times today.
We've had that
I heard that.
before.
Hello.
Yes. No. He was very clear during those conversations that this is what he would convey.
Because this is a lot for us to digest, and you all, especially Mr. Robinson, the engineer, know it a lot better than we do.
Which we are okay with that. My concern is March 4th the next date that we can be before you?
That's the next date we have.
Yes.
We run into some difficulty with construction and delivery to these existing tenants.
The problem is.
No, I know. It's,
You don't want it longer than that, you want it.
no, we want it much sooner, if possible.
I think that's the first date.
Well, you guys want to add a hearing for them?
No, I would not.
I'd appreciate that.
That was
The
genuine.
4th. The 4th is the earliest.
So,
We'd
March,
love to, but we
what is
just
it, March 4th?
March 4th.
You are, yeah.
I thought I'm on
We worked around you.
We worked
Oh.
around it.
Yeah, I'm not missing a vacation. But, okay. Sounds like March 4th.
That works. Is there any way that we could bifurcate this approval? Bifurcate the approval? Correct. We may what? Yes, yes. But could we grant the signs that are not at issue at this point, and we'll deal with the pylon signs? Okay. Planning's okay with most of them. Yeah, I know. 3 years.
Is there anyone else who'd like to hear this application?
I mean, just to allay your concerns, we'll get on it and we can run perhaps even that night.
Yeah, when we're in the same planning room.
Yeah, if you're in sync.
We will.
That's why it would take 62 days.
I look forward to speaking with you, Nick. Mr. Barbello.
Barbarello.
Barba.
There's two BARs, Barbarello. Yeah.
Have a great night. Thank you. We have to talk to them. Yeah.
If you have a sign application, we're done with signs tonight. Not a sign's coming your way.
Application number 89-25, Sayville Plaza Development LLC, permission to erect mezzanine addition and attached canopy resulting in floor area ratio of 26.79% instead of permitted 25%. Business 3 District, northwest corner of Sunrise Highway and Johnson Avenue, Bohemia.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is J.R. DeCiccio with the law firm of Greenberg Traurig, 900 Stewart Avenue, Garden City, New York. This application is a very simple one, no signs involved. We're just seeking a minor FAR variance of 26.79% instead of the permitted 25% in connection with a proposed mezzanine addition for an Uncle Giuseppe's Marketplace located in the Sayville Plaza Shopping Center on the north side of Sunrise Highway in Bohemia. Other tenants in the shopping center include Harbor Freight, Dress Barn, T-Mobile, and Panera Bread. The Uncle Giuseppe's will occupy the westernmost 38,000 square feet of the building, previously occupied by Babies R Us. Uncle Giuseppe's is proposing to upgrade the facade. They are proposing to add a 1,990 square foot exterior decorative canopy to the front of the building, as well as a 3,800 square foot mezzanine to the interior of the store. The footprint of the store is not changing. However, the addition of the mezzanine and the canopy add to the gross floor area and thus trigger the variance before you tonight. What's that?
I think we got it.
Yeah, I think we got it.
I think we got it.
I was going to go through the factors of New York State town law.
The whole New York State Town Law.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mr. Wexler has made precedent for this.
Yes.
I was going to say, well, the part that doesn't have precedent in it, right?
Well, I was going to go through the factors and precedent,
You've
and then
done such a good job in such a
All
short
right.
amount of time, Mr. DeCiccio.
We're very familiar with you. We trust everything you have to say.
I appreciate that. Mr. Barbaro.
That's two bars. Barbarella.
As somebody whose last name gets mispronounced all the time, I have a lot of sympathy for Mr. Barbaro.
It's not Barbara. And Barbarella is a movie.
Everything. They call me everything.
Yeah. No comment.
Thank you. Have a great night.
I'm good, right? Oh, gosh. Application 90-25, Georgiana Joan Johnson. Permission to leave two-story dwelling having front yard of 28.1 feet instead of required 40 feet. Residence AA District, east side of Johnson Avenue, 1,454.5 feet south of Church Street, Bohemia.
Good evening. Christine, Accurate Expediting. Christine Fay, Accurate Expediting. No signs, no nothing. I'm not used to being last. This is not beautiful. Anyway, front yard setback. The reason why we need a front yard setback is there was a taking. There was a road taking on Johnson. House is sold. I filed for something and they came up with this. I'd like the board to approve this.
Planning, any comments?
Yeah, this house has existed in its configuration since at least the 50s, and I don't believe it's changed whatsoever since then. They just didn't have a CO.
And I can't help but add for our history buffs that this is the Johnson family who Johnson Avenue is named after.
Wow.
In that case.
Mhm.
Yeah, in that case. Is
And-
there anyone else who would like to be heard in this matter? Nick, Jay?
I didn't talk to Nick on this one either.
You want to be heard?
Huh?
I'm going to make a motion.
Make a motion.
Make a motion to approve the application.
All in
Thank
favor?
you.
Application is granted.
You know, I went to the other building.
Oh.
I guess I didn't read it, or nobody mentioned.
Yeah.
Have you been
sorry.
doing it here?
At least you had plenty of time to get here.
You've been doing it here
Yeah,
for a
we're
while?
all renovated now, so we're
Yeah,
back.
no, it looks great. It looks
Yeah.
great. All right, have a good night.
Thanks for staying so
Bye,
late.
Nick Barbarello, right? It's Barbarello.
Sure, yeah. It's Barbarello.
It's Barbarello.
Barbarello.
Yeah, Barbarello.
Yeah.
All right, good night, everybody.
Never doubted you. Barbarella is the John movie. I think we have some read-ins.
I have to tell you guys something. It's not work when it's fun. Tonight was fun. It's fun.
It's not over yet.
Good night.
We have some read-ins, I think. Yeah. We are on the record. We have read-ins.
We have 5 cases, formerly reserved decisions that we're now ready to read into draft. Everybody have one?
Yeah.
Oh. You do? You do. There's a few tricks in there because Chris is not with us. Application number 703-24, Stephen and Diane Biter. In accordance with a proposed written decision dated February 11, 2025, the application is denied. On motion of?
Motion. Second? Second. All in favor?
Application number 739-24, CLA Holdings, Doris Kennedy. In accordance with the proposed written decision dated February 11, 2025, the application is granted. On motion of?
Motion. Second. All in favor?
Application number 762-24, Alan and Arlene Kazaza. In accordance with the proposed written decision dated February 11, 2025, the application is granted as to the detached garage and the fence and denied as to the one-story addition. On motion of?
Motion. Second. All in favor? Aye.
Application number 771-24, Howard Rowland and Aaron Rowland. In accordance with the proposed written decision dated February 11, 2025, the application is granted. On motion of?
Motion. Second. Second. All in favor? Aye.
Application number 774-24, Home Dream Builders. In accordance with a proposed written decision dated February 11, 2025, the application is denied. On motion of?
Motion. Second. All in favor? Aye.
Okay, that's a wrap. Thank you.
We win. You know,
We
people
did.
enjoy coming here.